getting up to throw something away only to have the lid slam shut and spill the trash across the floor. Trying to load a week of groceries onto a bicycle that tips the moment you slow down. Pouring a glass of wine and watching one last rogue drop ruin an expensive tablecloth. We treat these small frustrations as unavoidable instead of something to actually solve. But in Denmark, fixing exactly this kind of overlooked annoyance has become close to a national specialty. Whether that meant redesigning an object from scratch or building a better version of something the rest of the world had already tried and abandoned. Today, we're counting down 15 genius Danish ideas that fix everyday frustrations. Watch until the end, because number 15 gave the entire scientific world a single, precise number to measure something no one could pin down before, and it came out of a beer laboratory in Copenhagen. Number 1, the Christiania cargo bike. Getting groceries, gear, or several young children across a city usually means owning a car, an expensive solution for a short local trip. Bicycles with a front basket or a rear rack are a flimsy substitute, tipping dangerously at low speed or the moment they stop. Cargo tricycles were nothing new. Versions existed in England since the 1870s, and Dutch box bikes were already common in city trade. What Denmark added, developed in the Copenhagen free town of Christiania, and refined by 1984, was a specific fix. A sturdy wooden box mounted low between two front wheels, with the entire front axle turning as one unit rather than a single wheel pivoting. That gave the rider a low center of gravity, a bike that stood upright on its own even fully loaded, and full control while hauling over 100 kilograms of cargo. It didn't invent the cargo bike. It made the cargo bike trustworthy enough for a family to bet their groceries and their kids on. Number 2, the Vipp Pedal bin. A normal waste bin forces you to touch a dirty lid with your hand, or relies on a loose flapping lid that quickly turns grimy. The foot pedal bin wasn't Danish first. An American engineer named Lillian Gilbreth patented a step-open trash can in 1934, 5 years before Vipp existed. But those early pedal bins were flimsy, wobbling on the floor, slamming shut with a bang, and letting odor straight back into the room. In 1939, Holger Nielsen built a heavier version for his wife's hair salon, turning a decent idea into a genuinely reliable object. The Vipp bin uses a heavy steel body and a wide rubber base to stay planted no matter how hard the pedal is pressed. A steel linkage connects that pedal to a damping mechanism inside the lid, so it swings open smoothly and closes in near silence, sealing tightly enough to keep smells locked inside. The inner bucket lifts out on its own, so emptying it never means touching the waste. Denmark didn't invent the pedal bin. It's the reason the pedal bin actually works. Number 3, the Margrethe mixing bowl. An ordinary mixing bowl slides across the counter the moment you start whisking, forcing you to pin it down with one hand while pouring batter with the other. Acton Bjørn and Sigvard Bernadotte's Copenhagen design studio set out to fix that in 1950, and 4 years later, the bowl was given the name Margrethe, after the Danish princess. Made from heavy melamine, it has a slip-resistant rubber ring pressed into its base that anchors it to the counter during vigorous whisking. A wide handle on one side sits comfortably in the hand, while a precisely shaped spout on the other lets batter pour out in a clean line instead of running down the side. One simple shape ended both the spills and the sore wrist that used to come with mixing. If these small fixes are the kind of thing you enjoy, a like helps this video reach more people who'd appreciate it, and subscribing means you'll see the rest of what Denmark quietly got right, including a few ideas that didn't start there at all. Number 4. The Stelton EM77 vacuum jug. Keeping coffee or tea hot usually means an old-fashioned thermal flask, unscrewed with both hands every time you want a cup, losing heat with each pour. Erik Magnusson designed the EM77 in 1977 around a patented rocker stopper instead. Tilting the jug to pour shifts the weight of the liquid inside, which gently pushes a balanced insulated disc open and lets the coffee stream out smoothly. Set the jug upright again and gravity drops that disc straight back into its seal. The result is a one-handed pour that loses almost none of its heat, with no cap to twist off and set down. Number 5. The pH lamp. A bare light bulb throws a harsh glare that strains the eyes and casts hard shadows, and a simple shade over it usually blocks so much light the room feels dim instead. Paul Henningsen spent years studying how light bounces before arriving at the pH lamp in 1925, and unlike almost everything else on this list, this one was built from nothing that came before it. He arranged several curved shades in a precise, calculated spiral, so every ray of light reflects at least once before it leaves the fixture. hiding the bulb from any angle while still sending a soft, even glow down and outward, closer to the last light of dusk than to a bulb at all. Number 6. The Lego brick. Wooden or plastic blocks used to be simple cubes that children could stack, only for the smallest bump to send the whole structure collapsing. Here's the part most lists about Danish invention leave out. The interlocking, studded brick wasn't Denmark's idea originally. British toy maker Hilary Page patented a self-locking building brick in 1947 and sold it as Kiddecraft, and Ole Kirk Christiansen, Lego's founder, got a sample from a supplier and started selling his own version 2 years later. What actually happened in Denmark came in 1958 when Godfred Kirk Christiansen patented the hollow tube molded into the brick's underside. Page's original studs gripped weakly and pulled apart easily. The tube and stud coupling Christiansen added created real clutch power, tight enough to hold together upside down, yet loose enough for a child to pull apart with ease. Lego now manufactures every brick to a tolerance measured in hundredths of a millimeter, so a brick made this year still locks onto one made in 1958. Denmark didn't invent the toy brick. It invented the reason the toy brick actually holds together. Number 7. Ice cube bags. A rigid plastic ice tray is nearly impossible to carry to the freezer without spilling water, and once frozen, twisting it to free the cubes often sends them flying across the kitchen or cracks the tray. In the late 1970s, Erling Vangadal Nielsen patented a disposable alternative, a plastic bag filled through a narrow funnel at the top, which seals itself shut the moment you turn it over, so you can freeze water at almost any angle without losing a drop. When the cubes are ready, stretching the bag in both directions breaks the seals between the compartments and drops every cube cleanly into one pouch, ready to tip straight into a glass. Number 8. The dry cell battery. Early batteries were wet cells, open glass jars filled with corrosive acid that spilled the moment the device holding them was tilted or dropped. Denmark wasn't alone in solving this. A German engineer and a Japanese inventor were independently building dry cell designs within a year or two of each other, and history credits all three. Danish inventor Wilhelm Hellesen filed his version in 1887, replacing the liquid electrolyte with a moist paste sealed inside a zinc casing that doubled as the negative electrode, then wrapping the cell in plaster and paper for stability. What mattered wasn't who filed first, it was that a battery could finally be carried in a pocket without leaking, and Hellesen's version sold commercially almost immediately, paving the way for the first portable flashlights, radios, and medical devices. Number 9. Pure Yeast. For centuries, brewing beer meant relying on wild yeast that was just as likely to carry wild bacteria along with it, turning entire batches sour or spoiled and costing brewers dearly. In 1883, Emil Christian Hansen, working at the Carlsberg laboratory in Copenhagen, isolated the first clean, single-cell culture of brewing yeast, later named Saccharomyces carlsbergensis. A pure strain, free of contaminating microbes, meant a consistent, safe fermentation every time. Rather than patenting the discovery, Carlsberg gave the strain and method away to brewers worldwide, quietly raising the standard for food and beverage safety everywhere. Number 10. The Ostomy Bag. Patients recovering from bowel or abdominal surgery had options before 1954, but none of them were good. Rigid metal and glass devices date to the early 1900s, and by the 1940s, doctors in Britain had developed reusable rubber appliances strapped to the body. All of them leaked, irritated the skin, and made it nearly impossible to leave the house with confidence. In 1954, Elise Sørensen, a Danish nurse whose own sister had undergone stoma surgery, designed the first disposable, self-adhesive stoma bag. Its lightweight, odor-proof plastic and skin-friendly adhesive ring sealed comfortably against the body and stayed invisible under clothing. Produced by the Danish company Coloplast, her design handed patients back something the older devices never could: an ordinary day. Number 11. The DropStop Wine Disc. No matter how carefully you pour, a bottle of wine seems to always end with one last drop running down the neck and onto the tablecloth. After ruining one at his aunt's 80th birthday, Danish inventor Brian Vang Jensen set out to solve it, landing on a simple disc of food-grade, PVC-coated aluminum. Rolled up and inserted into the neck of the bottle, it springs open to form a tight seal against the glass. Its razor-thin edge breaks the wine's surface tension the instant you finish pouring, so the last of it falls into the glass instead of down the bottle. Number 12. Rugbrød. This one breaks the pattern on purpose. Rye bread belongs to half of Northern Europe, Finland calls its own version a national dish. Germany has pumpernickel, and Russia, Norway, Sweden, and the Baltic states all bake their own dark, dense loaves. Denmark didn't invent rye bread, and no single Dane patented it. What earns Rugbrød a place here is what it does inside a Danish kitchen every day. Standard white bread is heavily processed and leaves most people hungry again within an hour. The Danish version is made almost entirely from whole and cracked rye with active sourdough cultures and little to no wheat or sugar, built to sit underneath the open-faced sandwiches that make up most Danish lunches. That density is the point. It demands real chewing and releases energy steadily over hours instead of one quick spike. It's not a Danish invention. It's a Danish habit that happens to be better engineered than most people's breakfast. Number 13. The Long John Delivery Bike. Moving heavy cargo through narrow, congested city streets once meant horse-drawn carts or bulky vans, too wide for tight alleys and too slow for frequent deliveries. The Long John, first built in Odense in 1923, predates the Dutch box bike by several years and offered something far nimbler. A two-wheeled bicycle with a long, low cargo platform slung between the rider and the front wheel. A steering rod runs beneath that platform, linking the handlebars to the offset front wheel so the bike stays narrow enough to weave through traffic. Loaded with 100 kilograms of cargo, its low center of gravity kept it stable for daily deliveries. Similar bikes later rolled through Germany and the Netherlands too, but the layout and the year trace back to Denmark first. Number 14. Fiber-Optic Imaging. Diagnosing problems inside the body once meant exploratory surgery, or at best a rigid scope that was painful to insert and produced a blurry image. This is the one item where Denmark got there first and almost nobody noticed. In 1951, Danish physicist Holger Møller Hansen filed a patent proposing exactly the fix modern endoscopes still use, wrapping a glass fiber core in a second layer of glass with a lower refractive index, trapping light inside through total internal reflection instead of letting it leak out the sides. The Danish patent office turned him down, citing earlier unrelated patents, and no company would back him. 3 years later, a Dutch physicist and 2 British researchers published the same clad fiber concept in the journal Nature, and it's their names, not Hansen's, that textbooks credit with launching fiber optics. The idea that built the modern endoscope showed up first in Copenhagen. It just took the rest of the world a few more years and a published paper to notice. Number 15. The pH scale. For generations, measuring how acidic or alkaline a liquid was meant guesswork and indicators that gave no consistent, comparable number. In 1909, Danish biochemist Søren Peter Lauritz Sørensen, head of chemistry at the Carlsberg laboratory, solved that with a logarithmic scale built from the concentration of hydrogen ions in a solution. Unlike almost everything else on this list, there's no earlier prototype to credit. No parallel inventor working the same problem an ocean away. Compressing that complexity into a range from 0 to 14 gave scientists, brewers, and doctors a shared language for acidity, one so useful it still governs how we measure food, medicine, and water today. Not everything on this list started in Denmark, and the ones that didn't are arguably the most interesting, proof that the real skill isn't always invention, it's noticing what everyone else gave up on and finishing the job properly. If you'd like to see what else Denmark has quietly gotten right, subscribing is the easiest way to catch the next one, and there's another video waiting for you right now on the screen.